What would it take to arouse your life, to experience more connection, more pleasure, more realness, in and outside of the bedroom? I'm August McLaughlin, and this is Girl Boner Radio.
I think you begin with thinking, I want to kiss people and I want to, date them and maybe fall in love. For me, at least, what happens when you start exploring your queerness is it's not just about sexuality and who you're dating anymore. It also is a lot about yourself.
Kat has a very unique job. If she were to meet you at a networking event, she might introduce herself like this.
I'm Kat, and I am Scottish, but I live in Berlin, and I work for Ersties, which is kind of like a women-run porn company in Berlin as well. My job title is a bit strange. It's Head of Safer Work, which if you know Reddit terms, and you might know NSFW, which basically means like not safe for work, naked content, essentially. I'm basically head of everything not naked in the porn company.
Kat never imagined she would work in porn, but she didn't grow up with a lot of sexual shame either.
I remember that my mum was that mum in school who was teaching me things to teach my friends. So I always had an understanding of sex from a pretty early age, like about condoms. My mum was giving me condoms to give to school friends. I even was aware of masturbation and porn pretty early in my life. Like it just kind of came natural to me from even like age 8 or something. So I was that weird kid in school who talked about sex.
She was also super into it, starting with self-pleasure as a kid. As she got older, she wished she could have explored more with someone else.
I would say very exploratory. I think that's a good word for it. I just lacked any partner who wanted to explore with me. I definitely was curious, and I would say I was a pretty open-minded, not to be super crude, but I was like a horny little teenager, to be honest. I just didn't have like many people interested in me from a physical perspective, which maybe in hindsight was good because goodness knows what would have happened. But yeah, as a kid or as a young person, I was very curious about my body. I was very interested in masturbation, like anything that felt good. I even had like a little tent in my bedroom, which was kind of like, I called it like my wank tent. The term wank in the UK means to masturbate. And it was good. Like it just gave me like a little private space. It's funny how even though I was a kid and nobody told me that it was wrong, I just had this like strange fear of being caught. There was definitely an element of curiosity about taboo topics as a kid, I would say.
Kat would end up having a major sexual awakening as she started working for Ersties. Leading up to that, she spent most of her 20s exploring sex and dating, which was sort of a mixed bag of experiences.
My life was going to university. Yeah, I definitely had my open, trying to sleep around years, like when I first became single at university and dating apps were just coming out. I think I was one of the first people in my group of friends to be on Tinder. I was going for it. I'm motivated by dating. People think I'm obsessed with sex, but actually I just love connecting with humans. I like the excitement that comes with a new connection, the feeling of like, oh, do they like me? Do I like them back? And I was doing that hardcore. I was exploring definitely sexual freedom of being an adult. It wasn't all good though, to be quite honest. I think looking back, it was a time of trial and tribulation. I was pretty surprised because I remember I had a long-term boyfriend in high school who we had been having sex with each other. And then when I went to being single and like dating around, I was shocked because I didn't come. I didn't orgasm with like many guys at all, actually. So I was like, what? I don't have a problem with like orgasming, if I'm with somebody I know well, or if I'm with myself, like I don't have an issue. So that was a bit of a surprise for me. And it took me a long time to maybe understand why that might be. Maybe I don't know them. Maybe I don't feel comfortable with them. But I had a few years like that. And then I ended up meeting my partner. And yeah, we've been together for 10 years.
Today, Kat identifies as queer, but for a long time, she didn't feel like she could or maybe should.
Back in university, I would definitely have said probably straight, but I was always interested. I did try to date women back in Scotland, actually. I did have one or two small experiences. Because they didn't go well, I just kind of put it to the back of my mind because I thought, oh, maybe I'm not actually queer because that didn't turn out well. It's funny when you think about it because the amount of people, if you're bisexual or heterosexual, the amount of guys that you date that didn't go well, you don't just assume like, oh, I don't like any guys now. But that's kind of how my mind went. I think it's easier to just invalidate your sexuality when you're bisexual or when you're pansexual or queer because it's just way easier, to be honest, to be with a man. And there's a lot more of them who chase you. So that part's a lot easier too. It took me a long time to even feel validated in saying that I'm queer or bisexual because I didn't want to take space in a place I wasn't sure if I was valid to be in.
Working for Aristides helped shift that and a lot of things for Kat. And that took changing her relationship style. This was 9 years after her first big sexual exploration.
I was with my partner at the time I started Aristides. Within a short period of time, we opened our relationship, partly because, I really had like a drive to explore myself again. I tried to do the whole sexual exploration thing again, but from a kind of more mature, happier in myself point in my 30s. I've also been through that stage now. And I would say there was a huge comparison, a huge difference between the two, let's say, it's like slutty in a good way periods.
Kat landed her job after working in the sexuality space in another way.
My technical background is architecture, but I obviously didn't go down that path at the end after university. Long story short, I ended up making content about sex education and sex positivity on social media. I found my passion. I didn't realize that I could write about sex or talk about sex and it would be my job.
Then one day she saw a job posting for a marketing assistant at Aristides.
So I just was like, oh, hey, why not,
So she applied, landed an interview, and got the job.
And it all went from there. I think it's the right brand of weirdness that fits my weirdness. So, yeah.
When Kat started her new job, she was still feeling unsure about her sexuality. In fact, she'd felt uncertain for years.
There was always a question in my mind of like, okay, at some point, am I going to really feel like I need to explore this topic again of being with women or being with femme people? But I just didn't know how, and I was very unsure.
And then she started a job that involved some very steamy sex scenes right before her eyes.
When I started working at Aristides, I occasionally had to go to set, where we're filming the porn. We film predominantly lesbian-style content. Our crew are all women on set, and most of our shoots are also all female performers. I remember going to set, actually, I think it was even the first set I was on, and I was like super new. I was quite young and like nervous. Everyone was really lovely, but I was like very impressed and quite taken aback by how flirty people were, like the performers with me. I was like blushing a lot, and I was like, okay, there's definitely something here. And I remember like one performer specifically, I felt like, oh my God, I feel like she's flirting with me. And I just hadn't had this experience of like women outrightly flirting with me. Funnily enough, like I went to set a second time later, like a few weeks later, and the same performer was there. She actually was like, hey, I was telling my boyfriend about you, and like, I would really like to invite you to a sex party with me. And I was like, oh my God, she was flirting with me. So yeah, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And the more shoots I went to, just being surrounded by like very open, very shame-free sexuality that was just a sacred space between women, and most of the women there are queer. It was not something that was hidden or confusing. It wasn't hard to feel that coming towards me. And then eventually I just kind of realized like, this is what I need. I realized I wasn't allowing myself to explore my sexuality because I just wasn't sure if it was even a thing. And sometimes I had to stay on set to film some stuff, like, an interview at the end of the shoot. Honestly, I had to hear some very sexy things in the background. I was like, actually, I want to be there. I want to be having sex with them too. It's pretty hot to be on a porn set. So yeah, I was like, okay, I definitely like women. This is for sure.
Speaking of pleasure, I have to tell you about a beducated course I just took. It's called Chronic Pain and Sex: Rediscover Sexual Joy Amidst Pain. It seemed so appropriate as I finalized this episode. Plus, my partner currently has a shoulder injury. I tried one of the questions the teachers suggested asking, and my partner literally said, "That is such a good question." And then we had this awesome conversation, the kind that brought us closer. And I'm super excited to try the massage tips from the course. To get a personalized pleasure roadmap, take the Beducated quiz. It took me like 3 minutes at the link in the show notes. At the end, you'll get a special discount for Girl Boner listeners. So take the quiz, see all Beducated has to offer, including over 150 courses on sex and intimacy, all curated by experts at the show notes link. Soon she had an idea, a way to merge the work she was doing with her realization that she's into women, and to deepen her sexual self-discovery in a way that might benefit others too.
I had a task to create a YouTube channel for our company. I just had to think about ideas for videos. Initially, I was thinking about dating anyway because I love the topic of just bringing people together and helping people connect and find love. Actually, after a few videos, I was like, hey, why don't I send myself on a journey of dating women? I have access to a lot of amazing women here who would maybe happily be my guide or happily give me an experience to maybe give me confidence, to help me experience, my queerness in a really safe space. And maybe by doing that, I'll also show people that it's okay to kind of need somebody to hold your hand in the beginning, because I do think that a lot of people experience awkwardness and shyness when they start trying to date women after a lifetime of dating men. I was super lucky. I mean, I get to work with women who are performers and who are in, sex industry. So it's actually, for them, it's not such a strange idea for somebody to be like, hey, do you want to be in a video with me where you are my girlfriend for the day? For them, that's actually part of their life. I also wanted to show that actually sex workers and working with sex workers doesn't have to be something creepy. They're amazing people, and actually also a lot of women, I'm sure, could have a really beneficial experience with them. So yeah, I started to film some videos, very awkward and also kind of cringe videos at the beginning of the channel.
Her first experience was unforgettable.
One of the first videos I came up with was that I wanted to kind of rent a girlfriend for a day or hire a girlfriend for a day. I know some people have problems with the terminology there, but it was a topic that I'd seen on YouTube. And I was like, actually, I think this would be great for me because I can simulate the experience of having a date with a woman and get through all the awkwardness with her and then do it in real life. And I'm more confident.
So she reached out to a performer she knew through Erstes.
She's really amazing. She's more dominant than me. She's kind of actually dominatrix. I thought she would be the right character to help me guide myself into this first date experience. We had met before and I felt like, oh, there's also a nice kind of vibe.
So Kat set up the filming date and she was
super nervous because it was the first time filming in general, and I was also filming in public.
The night before filming, she talked to her partner.
And by this point, we had already opened our relationship. And I said to him, hey, by the way, I don't know, maybe something's going to happen tomorrow. And he was like, yeah, I hope so. I hope it happens. And I was like, oh, I don't know.
Would something physical happen, or would they just have a nice date out and call it a day?
Nothing was planned with this person in the video.
As it turned out, they had a nice date in Berlin.
We went to a cat cafe and I bought her some donuts and she fed me and we got cream all over our faces. It was very cute. And I remember thinking okay, I'm way too awkward to ask anybody to kiss. So I'm just going to hope, that I can hold her hand by the end of the date. But at the end of our date, I was asking her like, hey, like, was I a good date? Can you give me a rating and stuff? Like, very embarrassing. I said, hey, okay, great. Can I hug you? And then she was like, yeah. And then she went to kiss me. And you can see in the video, like, my face is actual genuine shock because I was not prepared for that. And this was, for real, the first kiss with a woman in more than 10 years. Yeah, it's kind of fun to have that on camera because it's quite a cute moment. Then we kissed again and it was super nice. And I was like, oh, actually, that went better than I expected. So yeah, that was the beginning.
Throughout Kat's exploration, her partner stayed supportive.
The way he puts it is, he's just so invested in my story and invested in my happiness, and super happy to see me come home and hear the excitement in my voice. Through this experience, it just brought us so much closer together. I think he always knew that there was this other part of myself. And as much as I don't want to make a big gender distinction, because at the end of the day, it is just about a person. And if you fall in love with a person, it doesn't matter what gender they are. But I do think that he was just able to see that this was something that allowed me to bloom and allowed me to come into myself.
And bloom she did.
I think you begin with thinking, I want to kiss people and I want to, date them and maybe fall in love. For me, at least, what happens when you start exploring your queerness is it's not just about sexuality and who you're dating anymore. It also is a lot about yourself. It's about how you see yourself, how you present to other people, the roles that you play. You kind of give yourself the permission to question who you are because you're not having to play a specific role to kind of fit into this heteronormative program, if that makes sense.
I love what you mentioned about it being so much more than just about sex. That's so true about awakenings too, that when you step more into your authentic desires and identity, you sometimes move differently in the world. How has this all impacted you as a whole? How are you feeling now as a person having ventured this?
Yeah, I can't even maybe fully explain the change and the changes that have happened to me since exploring this. I'm very thankful that I have a lot of it on video because you really see the progression of who I am as a person and just my character. My confidence is it's just night and day, actually. I think, to give you an example, initially I wanted to find more ways to meet people that I might be interested in, and I really got into going to drag king shows. Actually, I love drag queens as well, but I was like, okay, I actually love drag kings. And that was something that I found out just from getting more involved in this Flinta queer kind of bisexual girly thing. And then I ended up going to a drag king workshop. It's not something I would have done 3 years ago, for example. And here I am in this workshop dressed as a man. I was dressed as sort of a gender questioning David Bowie type who was a very sexual lover boy. Seeing myself in this moment was a really good way for me to remember how far I've come. Now, actually, I go out into the world and I can choose way more confidently who I am, how other people see me, and what kind of role I play with others. Because before I didn't question it so much, and I think now I'm yes, fuck yes, that's who I am. And I don't know, it's hard to describe. It comes down to even what you wear, how you present yourself in general. You feel yourself much more authentically.
If you would like to explore your own sexual identity or invite more exploration of different kinds to your life, Kat suggests this.
Not everybody is going to have the chance to, have a company-sponsored queer awakening like I did. So I get that it seems sometimes very difficult. But I would say if you can, the biggest thing is to be around people that are diverse and show you a lot more representations of gender, of sexuality. I think that's been the biggest, most amazing thing for me. And of course, I'm also very privileged because I live in Berlin. It has a really huge queer community. But if you don't have that in your local area, make your online world filled with people, different personalities, different looks, people living different lives. Once you see different representation, it just gives you the acceptance, and it gives your brain even the way to imagine who you might become. Build yourself a nice little supportive network, because then everything's possible from there.
And here's what Kat wanted you to know about Ersties. and sort of about porn in general.
I think a lot of people are rightly so concerned about watching porn. Of course, like I grew up also watching porn and then feeling guilty about it. Especially as a woman, I didn't want to see, people being badly treated. I know that there's a lot of people, also women, who watch porn. The brain wants us to kind of watch it, this weird kind of strange neurochemical way that it gets turned on by this. So a lot of us have like a complicated relationship with porn. What I found really healing since working at Aristoteles, and also not just working at Aristoteles, but being involved in this world of sexuality, is that there are so many companies actually, and so many people who are doing this in a really beautiful way. When I started talking to performers about why they make porn, they genuinely love it. They are exhibitionists. They're like, this is their craft. This is like being a dancer or being an artist or being a cook. They love that other people love it. When I understood that, and then when I understood that there are places and studios and spaces where people can make porn that makes them happy, it doesn't have to go over their boundaries, and that actually performers can come together and can create something really special, even if it's just for one day on set, it made me totally change my perspective of porn. This doesn't always have to be this harmful kind of subjective way of sex. So yeah, I think if you're curious and you're concerned about porn, I would say, branch out. What I like about Aristoteles is that we have performer interviews, so you can listen to who these people are. You can hear what their passions are. You can hear actually in their voice that they are who they say they are, that they're interested in what they're doing. And for me, that's the best thing about performer-led content, which also includes things like OnlyFans and any platform like that. Like, I just want to be part of a world where the sex worker is making the content that they want to make and they're happy with that, because that's the kind of porn I want to watch.
Kat told me that working in porn hasn't only helped her explore her queerness, but it's opened up her sexuality as a whole.
Yeah, I think just being around people that were just absolutely shamelessly open about their sexuality and meeting a lot of polyamorous people and just being surrounded by people like that, I think that wasn't something I had anticipated, because honestly, I thought I was already pretty sexually open, considering I was already working in this field. I kind of love that I actually am probably one of the most vanilla, wholesome people in the porn industry, but it's a lot more cute and wholesome than people expect.
That's so true. And I love that you were like, I was always the weird sex person, and now you're like, I'm the librarian of the group.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Like that switch up. It makes conversations really interesting, when you work with people like in this industry, you have no boring conversations. So I love that.
Check out Aristoteles using the link in the show notes. There you can also click to take the fun and quick Beducated Pleasure Quiz. If you enjoyed this Girl Boner Radio episode, I would love it if you'd post a rating and review or text a link to your friends. Thank you so much for listening.